Of course, all ISFPs have not been and need not be artists in the narrow sense of the word. Art, broadly conceived, is any action the next move of which is a free variable, and thus composers have a lot of leeway in choice of occupation, especially if they don't drop out of school early, though a great number do, since the school offers little that is of interest to them or that challenges their special talents. These ISFPs do quite well in business, particularly in decorative design, from automobiles to book covers, and purchasing, selecting a line of clothing, home furnishings, or gift shop items. With their kindness, they make wonderful nurses, and they can satisfy their love of nature by working in forestry, in landscape design and gardening, and even in veterinary medicine. Composers also make excellent teachers, especially of a school's arts curriculum, subjects such as drawing, music, drama, photography, and so on. Notice that all of these careers allow them a great deal of freedom and spontaneity. It is a sad day indeed when the ISFP chooses work wherein the operations are fixed by rule or ironclad necessity. To be happy and productive, they must choose free, variable actions and be rewarded for doing them. Well, there's a couple things to say about that. The first part about um, any action, the next move of which is a free variable. That's one of my favorite lines in the whole book, is that description of art. And, it kind of gets back to the whole general concept of, the types not being fixed into these particular occupations, that it's about that you have a tendency to gravitate towards certain activities because it's just what you're instinctually sort of made to do, but it doesn't lock you into something. It just means that, if you do something, the further away you are from what you're instinctually good at, the more effort you're going to have to put into it, and the less natural it's going to come to you. And so, in the context of the part that I just read, it means that basically the more opportunities I have for activities where the next action is a free variable, as I said, or basically I have a choice of what to do next. There may even be a fixed sort of ultimate goal or a deadline for a particular thing. There's a structure to almost any activity, but within that, whatever boundaries that a particular thing has, whether it's a job, whether it's a class, whether it's a video game, there are rules and boundaries in all of those things, but the more opportunities there are for freedom within that, especially creative freedom, the ability to not just choose, path A or path B, but to actually be able to come up with something, to have, create ideas that somehow aid the activity or the task. So, that being said, it's kind of amusing on the surface level when you consider that I currently work in an office job where I mostly do paperwork and I sit behind a desk most of the day. And, on the surface you would think about that and say, well, that doesn't sound like a job that, an artisan type person of any type would enjoy, because, it sounds like something where you're going to be having a lot of fixed activities and not a whole lot of room for freedom. And that's partially true, but within, again, like I said, within the boundaries of the job, the basic kind of, this is what you've got to get accomplished by this particular time, because of the nature of my job, which I guess is greatly shaped by the boss I have, because I have an artisan for a boss. So that in itself, I think, sort of has a tendency to provide. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my program failing, having an artisan for a boss there's almost a built-in kind of chance for more freedom within the job itself. And of course, there's some jobs where, it's really not possible, or at least, there's not as much variation kind of possible with it. If you're working on an assembly line where, you stand there and something comes in front of you and you put it together and you toss it on down. Yeah, that's probably not something that it's going to matter too much who your boss is as far as what you actually do, because it's kind of the same thing just over and over again. In the case of my job, there's certain minimum requirements of work that I have to do, but a lot of that, the order of in which I do it, isn't fixed in stone. I can alter that, based on kind of how things go. Sometimes I really have to alter it because, I have certain reports and things that I've got to do, and certain data I've got to enter in my computer. But I also have managers who come in with, for instance, new employees that they want to hire, and it's my job to go through and inspect all of that paperwork and make sure everything is right before they're entered into our computer system. And those can come in basically at any time. I tell them not to bring it on Wednesdays because that's our busiest day of the week. It's the first day of the week according to our company, and it's inventory day and all that. So there's a lot more work in a short period of time on Wednesday. So we ask the managers not to bring new hire paperwork on Wednesdays. And I also say it kind of stinks if they do it on payroll day, but other than that, it can come at any time. So I have to be able to adapt to whatever is added to my workload that day, or whatever stuff comes in at whatever time, and kind of pause or put on hold what I'm doing to take care of that before I can go back to it. So within that, there's actually an opportunity to, demonstrate that artisan adaptability in the just in the action of deciding, okay, I have to stop one thing to do something else, and then adjust to that, and not be so thrown off by it that I can't recover and get my other things done. So, it's still, it's definitely not a job that I would hold up as an example of a great job for someone of my type to have, but it's another example of how whatever occupation or job you find yourself in, you can sort of shape or mold it in the way that your personality can do that. And I guess in the case of certain types, they're less likely to need to shape or mold anything because they want it to be exactly by the book and this structure and this way. And then that's fine. And then there's people that want to kind of change it up and have some variety and all that kind of stuff. And, like I said, there's some jobs where that's pretty close to impossible. But there's a lot of jobs where, even if you can do it a little bit, then you sort of put your own stamp on that. And my job's like that. And there's a lot of opportunities to talk to people, kind of, get to know people better and kind of tell stories and listen to people share different things. And there's variety as far as how I go about my day. And obviously there's some things that are similar every day, but there's a lot of things that kind of do change up. So it's not quite as stuck in stone or whatever you want to say a job as it might appear to be on the surface if you say that I work in an office and I do paperwork. So Once again, those free variables, you have to find them where you can find them.